All right.
Yes, but it was good.
So my name's Aaron. I'm the campaigns coordinator at the Students' Union here at the University of Sheffield. So my job is to work with students, helping them find ways to make change happen, either at the university or in the local community. And I've been involved with lots of different campaigns throughout I've only been in Sheffield back here for a few months, but I've also been a campaigner myself on some of these issues. And the issue I want to talk about is divestment, which was touched on earlier by Lisa in her talk this morning. And I was just going to have a few reflections on why the divestment campaign was successful here at the University of Sheffield. Why has it been so successful nationally with a large number of universities divesting, but also now churches, medical organisations, institutions, town halls, etc., who've also pledged to divest. And I think globally we're now looking at over $5 trillion of investments which have been withdrawn from fossil fuel companies or won't be invested in fossil fuel companies. So my involvement with that campaign started just as it was kicking off back in 2013 in the UK. I was part of at the launch event where Bill McKibben, the environmentalist from the United States, came over to the UK and gave his talk about the terrifying maths of climate change. And you know, the whole idea that you'd build a campaign around a scientific fact is quite unusual, I think. That at the heart of that was a calculation, like Christian said, about the carbon budget and saying we have far more carbon available on our books of these companies than we can afford to burn if we're to meet our target. And yet that fact, that stark fact that we have more on the books of these companies than we can burn is a wake-up call, because it means that these companies are overvalued. If we're to meet our climate targets, we can't carry on with business as usual. So it really brings into a very stark relief as an idea that what we're doing on the business as usual pathway can't continue. And so there becomes a very clear case that we have to change what we're doing. And I think it just conceptualizes that case, and that's what Bill McKibben was so good at conveying. But the question is then, well, what do we do? And I think what the divestment movement was trying to do is say, well, we know that these companies have a control over our political system through the way that they lobby, through the way that they fund political campaigns, etc. And that comes from a social license, and that social license comes from the fact that we all allow these companies to do that, in a sense. And so we've got to withdraw that social license, and institutions like universities are a place which grant this social license because they do make public investments in these companies, or they receive money from these companies, etc. So by continuing to say that you're an acceptable organisation, what you're doing is acceptable, we're basically giving them cover and letting them undermine our hopes of change. And so that's the logic of the campaign. It's not to try and bankrupt these companies, it's to try and take away their social license to operate and to manipulate our political dialogue. Now, students saw that, they got excited about it, they wanted to do something about it, and they took that message to the university, where they were rebuffed and said, you're idealists, you don't know what you're talking about, this isn't going to work. And so the students had to come up with their own explanation, making a business case to the university, and also drawing up support on campus, so speaking to other students, getting signed signatures on petitions, going to academics to get an open letter to show support from them as well. And so it was showing that groundswell of support and public opinion, which then they went back to university, and the university said, oh, well, maybe you are onto something here after all. And they were able to show that, you know, rebuttals to all the university's cases that this was going to be unfinancial for the university to do this, etc. And so it was, you know, an iterative process where they'd go get rebuffed, they'd come up with a response to that rebuttal, show that there was increasing support, and that was how they won that argument. But it was an argument that was both won through argumentation and making a sound case, but it was also an argument won through just showing support, strength, and the demand of the student and academic voice. So I think what I'm trying to summarize here and distill from that was campaigning within the institution was really important to that being successful, but it was also very important that, and at least in this instance, the campaign was a visible and at times confrontational and oppositional to the university as well. And so I'll leave it at that, but I think, you know, we shouldn't be afraid to challenge and show that we have the massive support on our side on these issues is my conclusion. Thanks.